Hi, I'm Ralph Seaman of the Carling Conservation Club. Welcome to the Carling Clubhouse. Our guest today is Eddie Finley, Executive Secretary of the South Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission and Authority on the Striped Bass. Welcome, Eddie, to the Carling Clubhouse.
Nice to see you again, Ralph.
Eddie, your state is the scene of a most interesting sport fishing story.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. It's a big story when a fine saltwater game fish like the striped bass can be caught in our freshwater artificial lakes.
Now, Eddie, we're coming back to this talk a little later on, but now let's take a look at our film, The Santee Cooper Story.
The 160,000-acre Santee Cooper is the home of the world's original landlocked rockfish, or the striped bass. These fish have not merely survived here, they've literally exploded in a series of phenomenal hatches. The water turbines chopping up great quantities of small fish provide food for stripers stopped below the big dam. Stripers feed also on shad and herring coming up the Cooper River on spawning runs. Channel catfish up to 57 pounds have been caught in these waters. Largemouth black bass are plentiful. But of all the fish found here, the striped bass, beloved by countless anglers, is the main attraction both below and above the dam. One reason for the striper's success is the tiny thread-fringed shad he feeds on. Another is the gizzard shad, which grows somewhat larger than cousin threadfin. Herring also contribute greatly to the food supply. Fishermen travel hundreds of miles to enjoy the sport offered by Santee Cooper. In a single day, many out-of-state license plates can be seen here. This pair of fishermen, father and son, might be worth watching. Jeff and his son, Jeff Jr., have fished together for several years. And Dad long ago learned that Junior is just as skillful as he is. Today, they're spurred on by a wager. If Junior catches the biggest fish, he gets exclusive use of the family car all day Saturday. If Dad hooks the day's biggest fish, Junior mows the lawn Saturday instead. The youngster's wasting no time. Using a fly rod, he moves into action fast. Looks as if young Jeff has latched onto something. The fight is short. Junior doesn't seem to be too delighted. He's going to need a catch bigger than this largemouth bass if he's to win that wager. A school of striped bass is spotted feeding on the water's surface. Our friends cast right into the school, and almost immediately both father and son are fast to a couple of stripers. These are not the prizes they're looking for, but Dad seems to be leading so far. Time out in the contest for a shore lunch. Being in second place so far means that Junior builds the fire. Using cut bait as his lure, Dad decides to try for one of the huge catfish living in these waters. While Dad enjoys himself, Junior fillets the stripers they've caught, and he soon has them frying in the skillet. There's action down at the shore, too. Dad is tied into a big fish, and the boiling coffee is quickly forgotten. This channel cat puts Dad well ahead in the race for the day's biggest catch. Young Jeff can't help but admire the fish, even though it's going to be a mighty tough one to beat. It looks like Saturday will be mowing day for Junior. After lunch, young Jeff decides to rest a bit. He dozes off, but even in his dreams, he's fishing. He's caught himself a fair-sized largemouth bass. In dreamland, anything can happen. This fellow's caught himself a nice one. And now he's got himself a fair-sized rockfish. Who's that? Why, it's our guest today, Eddie Finley of the South Carolina Wildlife Resources Department. That bass he's landing is a whopper. In Junior's dream, the action's becoming fast and furious. Perhaps the winning fish is among these beauties stirring up the water. If only the right one can be hooked and landed, it may turn out to be big enough to win that wager, big enough to get the car for Saturday night. Uh-oh, dream's over. Time's a-wasting. Junior's anxious to get back to work. Now, though Jeff Sr. is enjoying a nice lead in the contest, he seems to be anxious to add insult to injury by tying into a fine, fat striper. Succeeds in landing the handsome fish. Junior's delight is tempered slightly by the knowledge that this big striped bass is the largest caught so far today. A few minutes later, though, the whole picture changes. Using a chunk of herring as his bait and fishing just off the bottom of the lake, young Jeff finds a hungry channel catfish. Though it's obvious that this cat tops by quite a few pounds his biggest catch of the day, Dad is thrilled that Junior landed such a true beauty. Sr. congratulates his son on winning the contest and use of the family car on Saturday. It's been a wonderful day all around. And there's a fabulous fish fry in store for the whole family as soon as father and son get back home. It means two more delighted fishermen who will sing the praises of incomparable Santee Cooper.
We return now to our guest, Eddie Finley. Eddie, we know that the striped bass roams the East Coast from Maine to Florida. Now, is the Santee Cooper striper the same as the saltwater variety?
Absolutely, Ralph. It's the same fish physically, but it differs in one important respect. Perhaps I can show you on the map. The Santee is a big river. It drains most of South Carolina and parts of North Carolina, while the Cooper is a short tidewater river. We have always had striped bass in our coastal rivers, but for some reason or other, they went far up the Santee. When the Santee Cooper hydroelectric project was built in 1942, it was natural that many of these fish would be trapped in the two lakes formed by the project.
What happened then after the dam was built?
Well, Ralph, as you can see, this dam cuts off the flow of the Santee River, diverts the water through Lake Moultrie and the powerhouse and down the Cooper River. As I said, many striped bass were trapped in these two lakes. Now, fisheries men took it for granted that these stripers would eventually die out. Of course, they had always believed, like all other fisheries men, that the striper was an anadromous fish, meaning that although it was spawned in fresh water and could live in fresh water, it had to return to the salt water to complete the life cycle. But as time went on, they got reports from fishermen of more and more of these stripers being caught in the two lakes, many of them young fish. So they got the idea that possibly these fish were reproducing in fresh water without returning to salt water. And they began some extensive studies, too long to describe in any detail, but these studies proved to their satisfaction and the satisfaction of fisheries men everywhere that the fish were reproducing in that landlocked state.
How plentiful is the supply of striped bass today?
Well, Ralph, actually the numbers of striped bass in Santee Cup are almost unbelievable. As I told you, there was a gradual increase for a few years after the water was impounded. But in 1955, the catch was 60,000 striped bass. By next year, it was 130,000, and in 1957, the catch was over 300,000. Last year, we estimated around 500,000 striped bass were caught in Santee Cup.
What effect has the Santee Cooper discovery had in other areas?
Well, naturally, all these other states, when they learned what had happened in Santee Cup, they became interested in getting this same fish for their suitable waters. Now, at least half a dozen states have gotten striped bass from Santee Cooper and stocked them in their lakes, including Arkansas, Oklahoma, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Kentucky. Reproduction has occurred in only two states, North Carolina's Carl Reservoir and Tennessee's Kentucky Lake. North Carolina's situation is rather unique in that the fish that are reproducing in Carl Reservoir came from a North Carolina river and not from Santee Cooper, which brings the possibility that stripers from any coastal river may reproduce if they are brought inland and put in suitable freshwater lakes.
Thank you, Eddie Finley, for telling us one of the greatest fish stories of all time. Well, that's it. Thank you for being with us. For those interested in obtaining further information regarding the Carling Conservation Club, just write to the Carling Conservation Club, Post Office Box 1817, Cleveland 6, Ohio. There will be no obligation. I'll be with you soon with another interesting program on the great outdoors. So long now.